Hey everyone, we're here from Wildhead with Wowhead Weekly. I'm Kirk.
Annie Fuchsia, and we are here with
Ian Hazzikostas, Game Director on WoW.
Chris Robinson, Senior Art Director on WoW.
First of all, thank you very much for having us here. And
pleasure.
we planned a bunch of different questions. We also asked some of our audiences to suggest questions for you guys, so hopefully you'll be able to answer them.
So I'll start off with some questions on heritage armor. Why Tauren for the next Horde heritage armor, and is their cloak really a totem thematic?
So to answer the first question, when we release that, it's always trying to make it relevant to content that you kind of recently played through, so it doesn't feel like it kind of came out of the blue. Having just experienced a lot of that High Mountain Tauren lore recently in the last expansion, it felt like it was a good time to give a nod to the Tauren. And yes, to answer your second question, we figured out a way to make a cape totem somehow.
Awesome, that's amazing.
I think one of the cool things about the heritage armor is that we take some more liberties, some more freedom in actually crafting it, but it's only ever going to be worn by a single specific race. So you don't have to worry about how that totem's going to look on a gnome's back, let's say.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Do I have to follow up or should I get it? So, so speaking of the heritage armor and the flexibility, do you think there will be plans to have heritage armor for every race at some point in the future? Now that the
I
flexibility
think
have been
we've definitely started down that road, right? We announced that we've done 2, we've announced 2 more. I think, I wouldn't expect necessarily a speedy timetable to get to all of them. I think it's going to be as it makes sense with the stories that we're telling. But I think we're excited to be able to broaden it beyond just the allied races and give people a chance to express their racial identity.
Any hints about the original kind of Warcraft armor that we see the Night Elves wearing in Darkshire, the NPCs? Or could that be player acquired at some point?
I think that's the kind of thing that, kind of to hail back to the last question, that we take a look at what we designed for them, and then when it comes time to make it the heritage armor, I don't know that we would necessarily use that as the armor, but we would probably, if people really responded well to it, which is a huge part of it too, like what is the player feedback, how are people responding? If they really liked it, we'd probably take that as like a starting point and then build something that was reminiscent of it, but plus it a little bit if possible.
Going into a bit of lore, we know that a lot of things happen to the Night Elves, and we're wondering if there's going to be a story continuation after the
Definitely, yeah. I think we're seeing a chance for them to really delve into both Night Elf culture, but also their champions. I think as we saw in the Terror of Darkshire cinematic, they are feared by the Horde for a reason. And yes, while they are in touch with nature, don't get between them and nature, certainly don't harm their homes, certainly don't harm their people. And so I think it's exciting to see Tyrande moving into a new chapter of her story as she becomes something of the Night Warrior.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot as well.
Yeah.
Like, we need to see more of Tyrande.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So that was really nice to see in the cinematic.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we're doing is building foundations for future stories that we can tell in the future.
Should I take the next one?
Yeah, that's what
Alright, the Night Elf glaive is classified as a glaive, allowing only demon hunters to use it. Is there any plans to change that?
Not currently. Not
yeah,
currently.
Waves and
There's a little bit of an overlap there. I think Demon Hunter glaives essentially evolved from their elven heritage.
Yeah.
I think we understand the desire to have a weapon of that look, so that maybe something that we loosen down the line or give a different version that has a similar silhouette to it.
Players missed the transmog progression angle of Legos and artifact. Did you find things like that in BFA?
like the artifact skins that you
Sure.
get. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that was, to some extent, that was an interesting solution to the problem of how do we give a player only one weapon for the entire expansion? What about the ability to customize your look? What can you work towards in terms of visual appearances if you only have one weapon? Now, for Azeroth, of course, we're back to a wide variety of weapons, and so you can, when you're getting a base from the Deer or something from a new raid coming up, from a dungeon or PvP, there's a lot more looks to acquire. Now, the idea of cosmetic rewards as a form of progression or a form of recognition of different playstyles is something that I think we're going to continue to do wherever it makes sense. Being able to look at someone and say, oh wow, that person did that thing in the game, they must be a great PvPer, or they really put in a lot of time exploring the world to earn that look. That's valuable.
Speaking of transmog, is the idea of, or the transmogs that you guys had for challenge modes back in MOP, PvP, they were very, very special. And are you guys planning to do anything like that in the future? And the same with the challenge modes in WoD as
Any
well.
of those challenge modes.
Yeah, I like them. And the weapons from WoD, for example, they were one of the most amazing weapons. Like sometimes I see a weapon type that I've never used myself, and I can tell that it's from WoD just because of the animations. And is that something you guys have considered sometime soon for in this expansion?
I think we're always looking to raise the bar. I think one of the cool things about the old challenge armor was some unique effects that might be associated with an animation. And I remember the rogue one where you mutilated and puffs of smoke come out of the shoulders.
It's right time, right place.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think if we did it all the time, it wouldn't have the cool factor.
exactly.
Part of that factor, like you see it, and you're like, oh, I remember when that was in the game. That's
Exactly,
awesome. To have that excitement, you need the lull time in between. So it's just one of those things. Like to answer your question directly, no plans right now, but I'm sure we're gonna have something very soon come up that we'll go. That's the perfect time to add that kind of thing.
So speaking of artifacts, now that this interview is after the Q&A, we had some hints that maybe the part of Azshara system would be like beefier in the future in a different patch, adding more depth like artifacts. Do you have any more specifics you can share on how the necklace could get more?
Honestly, it's a bit premature right now. I think it's something that we want to explore as an avenue of progression deeper in the expansion, but we're still working through several potential designs. I think we'd like some more depth there to complement just the pieces of armor, and we'll get into that as Rise of Azshara gets closer.
Cool. So another different question about Rise of Azshara. Some people are wondering why parts of Nazjatar are not underwater, because previous lore seemed to imply that it was. Is there a lore reason why it's now not underwater, or there are some technical constraints as to players not liking this year?
I think the lore reason of being stuck underwater for long periods of time is not very much fun.
Okay.
But you know, it was really important for us to capture that vibe, regardless of whether or not you'd be always underwater or not. So it actually, that challenge afforded us a lot of opportunities to solve it by coming up with clever ways to make you feel like you're in an environment that was underwater, obviously going in and out of water environments and potentially fighting in some, but without having that kind of repetitious, like, oh, I've been in water for so long now.
Are there any special mechanics like, you know, increases or like waterfalls, slides, or things to help with transportation if you are underwater?
We haven't gotten that far into fully fleshing out the space in terms of like the gameplay mechanics of moving from area to area. That's a really cool idea. I think in general we see fast-moving bodies of water nowadays.
Yeah.
It's likely that if you jump in, it'll kind of carry you along a bit. So that could be cool. Also, we'll note that the term, the game Rise of Azshara, not just a turn of phrase, which may provide some hints to what we're seeing here.
Oh yeah, the Dark Moon. Oh yeah, the Dark Moon roller coaster. How does it work? With another minigame or more words? Oh, never mind. Yeah, just that.
It's pretty much a motion sickness simulator.
Awesome. So we're actually going to be riding it properly.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
First person POV, enjoy.
Nice.
Or don't, depending on.
So interestingly, to interject, like that roller coaster was actually not something that we initially just came up and said we want to do a roller coaster. Let's put it on the schedule and build it. It was actually a labor of love that one of the artists on the team started doing when he very, very first started as a passion project. Created a concept for it and actually built like two of the little cars that you ride in. And then it just kind of sat to the side for a little while until we had some lull time. We do this thing called Hackathon, where we take a week and everybody just gets to kind of work on stuff that they think is cool and they want to see in the game. It kept staying alive through Hackathon and eventually got to the point where it was so far along that we said, like, we need to just finish this off and get it done.
That's amazing.
That's cool. The carousel is also kind of like a passion.
It was, totally.
as well.
And yeah, with having this new mini loop, so to speak, are there any more modes planned for it?
As always, I honestly can't name them off the top of my head, but I think as we expand the content, we know a lot of players who've been going through Dark Moon Fair for literally a dozen years at this point, who always use new things to chase. And so, with evergreen content like that, or holidays or micro holidays, we'd be adding the ones where it makes sense.
We just built the coolest Brawlers League set that I've ever seen.
This is true.
Not
Yeah, the
directly.
mountain with
Yeah.
transmog were so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so really excited that's happening.
So we finally saw the Worgen and Goblin model updates. I know when other Wowhead people had a group interview, they were not revealed yet, but we're very happy they are. We're getting a lot of questions. Some people really want the glowing eye option for females as well. Will they have customization options?
They already do. We just didn't show it here because
Okay.
we kind of wanted to take just like basic shots.
Yeah.
But yeah, we matched up like all of the eye options for each of them. I think we're going to iterate even further. I'd like to see, like I know everyone's really happy not to have the permanent scowl, the female version of the word anymore. I feel like we still have a little bit of that Chihuahua look going on, and I'd like to kind of give more options as far as facial customization goes. So I think we'll continue to iterate. But yeah, to answer your question, they'll definitely have that.
Another cosmetic themed question. Are there any plans for new rare hunter pets such as spirit beasts or challenge tames? I feel like Magic Dark could have some very interesting beasts.
Yeah, I think nothing specific to announce, but definitely when we visit new areas with new types of wildlife, we know that for a lot of hunters, that is a collection mini game unto itself. We want to, let them tame whatever they can get their hands on, where possible.
Another question which also kind of touches the cosmetic aspect, are there any plans to have a straight back for undead?
See, this is the slippery slope of straight back.
Every year we ask, we start asking you specifically about more cosmetics.
I mean, we're not actively working on it right now, but having said that, I'm sure that we'll eventually kind of tackle all that stuff. So no, not currently.
Not sure this is another slippery slope question, but Sylvanas has started to raise Night Elves and Blood Elves in Tides of Vengeance. Do you think players could get that as a customization option eventually, like undead skins for different races?
Eventually.
Yeah, it definitely could be a cool space to explore, right? I mean, we've seen risen humans. There's no reason why that couldn't be applied to other races, but it's a mix of where the story takes us, and like, if those exist, are they standard members of the Horde? And if not, then are they player characters? We'll see.
Oh yeah, so we saw that there was a revamp for Razzia Basin and Orson Gulch, and we're wondering if Valdric Valley would get any similar updates, since we know Valdric Valley is very too hard for a lot of players. It was one of those BGs that people were in for hours on end, and it was still not over. So, is there any plans to revamp that?
None right now. It's something we may get around to at some point. I think Warsong and Arathi, it's a mix of, they're a bit more compact. You can see the entire valley laid out before you.
Smaller, yeah.
Whereas in AV, you're only seeing pieces of it at a time. It's almost, truly the size of a zone practically in a lot of cases, which raises some challenges there. But I think with as much time, Arathi Basin and Warsong remain two of our very most popular battlegrounds. They're part of the rated battleground rotation and an important part there. And we saw how much time players were spending in these zones that we literally made 13 years ago, and we just wanted to update the fidelity so that it's consistent with the characters themselves that are occupying it and the rest of the world where you're spending the rest of your in-game time.
It was one of those things where I'm just happy to play Orson Gulch. It's my favorite BG, and then I saw the updates and I'm like, wow, it's actually quite a big difference. You don't realize it when you're so used to just playing the same BG all the time, but the graphics are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at it and remember that it looked that way.
Yeah.
And so you kind of
Now
side
I'm
by
hoping
side.
Ashenvale gets a visual update too to be just as high
All these
resolution as
slippery
Orson
slopes
Gulch.
you keep bringing up.
I had a question about Legendaries actually. So, we've always had Legendaries, each expansion of WoW. First they were, for drops and then quest lines, and then more recently they were the quest lines for everyone. And now in Legion we had so many Legendaries, and now in BFA there's none. Do Legendaries fit into Battle for Azshara?
We have no current plans for another, though it may make sense. I think we have the legendary trinket for Mentorus, for example, at the end of Legion. That was a separate one, more old school style there. I think part of the challenge is coming up with it's balancing power against a delivery mechanism that makes sense. I think the original Legendaries worked in a different era of the game to some extent, when yes, you could get your Warblades from raiding Black Temple, but only a few percent of players raided Black Temple, and the microscope, the balance and things were put on it was very different. It was okay for a rogue to just be 20% better than everybody else because they got lucky.
Yeah, to be fair, to get my offhand blade.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Or to
get
always
my
feel
DPS
behind
boost,
because
yeah.
you didn't get lucky. But where it makes sense, I think it's been cool to be able to deliver iconic weapons. We've done it recently with the artifact, of course, but it's still on the table, just no specific plans.
Yeah, the quest lines for the Cataclysm ones were nice too because they gave you more flavor related to the raid story as well.
That is true. I like those. A question on more of the tech side of things, I guess you could say. With the Kultiran and the Zondalari trolls being introduced, does that mean that we'll get more character slots? Or how are
Yes.
you looking at that? Yes?
Yep, we've kind of continued to increase the number of character slots per server as we add new island races. Because we understand that many people have one of each, and we don't want you to have to delete a character to make a new island race.
Mm-hmm. And following up with that, are you planning on increasing the account character limit?
Not currently. I think 50 is still quite a bit in practice. I think it's hard. I think we're hard pressed to find people who are actively playing more than 50 characters, and there's just an upper balance on storage and how much space can be allocated to a given account. The overwhelming majority of players are well below that.
Yeah, I think 50 characters is a lot for a lot of people. I think some of us who have played for a long time have characters that may not be max level that we actively play, but we have memories attached to them, and we don't want to delete them, because then it starts getting a little bit towards wanting to play the allied races. But that makes sense.
Alright. I want to ask the final one about the goblins.
Yeah, I was
versus
going to leave that for you.
Okay, so here's one with the silly question. So, obviously in Tides of Vengeance, the goblins and gnomes are kind of having this engineering, battle face-off. And in 8.2, we're going to, the Mecha Gnome City, and the goblins are there too. Do they feel jealous of the gnomes at all? Are they sad that there's, Mechagon and, they need to have a city now? What are your thoughts about going to this land of the Mecha Gnomes? Are they jealous of the engineering?
I think probably less jealous, more eyes lifting with opportunity. And I mean, look, this is the real vault of Midway that holds treasures of no technology and actual some even Titan stuff that the goblins can of course take and do far better things and far more lucrative things than the gnomes ever could.
And now the Mecha Torque's on a block of ice.
I also don't know that a board character's ever been jealous of an alliance character, though.
Oh. Wow.
I'm not the perfect confirmer.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we had any more questions straight away. There were a lot of questions that were asked us, and we tried to just put a list together to try and get those straight.
A lot of people want Volterra.
Yeah, Volterra.
Yes.
There were a lot of thoughts about that. There were lots of, was it emotes and customization?
Yeah.
And we were wondering, is it really going to be a race that players can't play with that much customization, or is there any plans for us to possibly play?
I think part of it is that, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
I think part of it is we have gotten to a point where we're able to add that much flavor to major NPC characters. So it makes the world feel more alive if you're interacting with NPCs that have the same abilities as you when they're doing the same things or similar things to what you're doing. So I think just technically we're taking that approach of if we're going to put that work into it, let's just give it the full suite of animations because it opens it up for designers to use it for custom things and then, obviously it opens up the opportunity for us to make it a player character easier if we want to. I think it's just timing once again. Are we going to get to the point where we feel like that particular race is endearing to the players enough, is ingrained in the lore enough that it makes sense to make them a player character and then make the right decision?
Exactly.
Okay, awesome.
I think that's it. Thank you so much for your
Awesome.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah, every time.
Thank you. Great way to come to BlizzCon.
Oh, you're awesome.
It was the last interview.
Yeah.